In this video, I'm going to give this little Honda Zook a huge power increase because going this slow is boring as f***, and going this fast is dangerous as f***, but also great fun.
This is absolutely mental.
So I'm going to show you every step I took in order to create this odd looking monster. So let's start by stripping it down. So this panel's definitely got to come off, but to get that off, we've got to get headlight off, this panel off, believe this one off, handlebars off, everything off, engine out. Now the best bit about the scooter, that is the basket. Once that's out, there's around 15 different parts to the headlight that needs to be removed. Here's a little tip, people. Put all my bolts, fixings and stuff in here, label it up, and you'll never get them all. Now, unfortunately for the Zook, the original AF05 engine just isn't worth tuning. There's hardly any aftermarket parts or upgrades available, plus it has a fixed drive transmission. That is why we are taking this one out and replacing it with a Honda Dio AF18 engine all the way from Japan. The sky's the limit with these engines, and it will be a lot more fun upgrading from 3 horsepower to double digits on a 40 kilo bike. I was just thinking, if we cut that out, weld it shut, so there's no seat, got like a petrol scooter, stand-up one. And then there's a few bolts securing the one plastic panel that resembles a jet ski. Yes, then people, look at that. It's like saying out the Transformers. Speedo drive disconnected, rear brake cable disconnected, the throttle cable out as well. Socket going on, take the handlebars off. Oh god, that is so tight. This should lift off once this is out. With the cables, and there we have it. One complete set of handlebars. There we go, that's better. Then I disconnect the fuel pipes, auto choke cable, wiring from the engine, the rear shock, and finally the engine mounting bolt. You ready, peeps? I know how strong I'm feeling. And there we have it, one engineless Honda Zook. Once the AF18 engine arrived from Japan, I needed to work out how I was going to mount it to the Honda Zook frame. Spending a load of money and time building this engine to find out it doesn't fit would be a complete nightmare. As you can see here, the AF05 and the AF18 engine mounts are completely different and are not compatible with neither the engine or the frame. So after doing some research, I needed to get an AF16 engine mount and modify that to fit. And guess where I had to buy that from? Japan. The mount needed quite a bit of surgery with an angle grinder to make it fit. So I trimmed down both sides, repositioned the hanger, welded it back together, trimmed down the centre stand mounts on the frame as the engine was fouling, and then gave the mount a lick of paint. Job done. Now we can start stripping the AF18 engine down. As you can see, the cylinder and cylinder head was already removed from the engine when I received it from Japan. The oil was also drained. This is because couriers generally won't accept engines as they are considered hazardous. With it being sent like this, it reduces the risk of shipping issues. I just want to say thank you, Sid, for doing all this for me, because without your help I don't think I would have this engine. Now I'm removing the clutch and smashing out the old crank with a hammer. No worries, as this won't be getting reused, along with the oil seals and bearings. Right, that's the engine all stripped down. Crank out, bearings out, seals out, clutch out, variator out, top end off. Everything's pretty much there. And then it's just a case of removing the gears for inspection. So I have jet washed off the crankcases and also used some white spirit just to get rid of all the grease. I did want to get the cases vapor blasted, however I soon changed my mind when some absolute joker got excited and quoted me £685 even after seeing pictures of the parts. What do you think about that? So I cleaned them up myself and used a Dremel on the stubborn parts. No dramas. With that done and looking terrible, I ordered a load of OEM Honda parts and replaced the worn out bushes along with the old bearings and seals to make sure the engine is ready for the high performance upgrades we are about to start fitting. If you're wondering, it's well worth buying one of these bushing removal tools. They're extremely cheap and make your life a lot easier. I'll drop a link in the video description if you want one. Look at that, good as new. As a precautionary measure, I install a new wheel bearing as I don't want the rear wheel locking up when I'm doing 70 mph on a bike that weighs less than a bowl of rice. I then heat up the crankcases, ready for some new racing C4 bearings fresh out of the freezer. Have a listen to these bad boys. So now I can fit this Malossi RHQ crankshaft. The RHQ stands for Racing High Quality, and this is designed for high performance builds and can withstand up to 16,000 RPM. I fit some new dowel pins, heat up the bearings, drop in the frozen crankshaft on one side, apply some crank sealant, heat up the other bearing, put the cases back together, tighten it all up, test it spins freely and give it some oil. Perfect. Okay, so that's the crank in. Now I'm going to fit this oil block off plug. Got this little thing off AliExpress. It's definitely not Polini. I don't know what it says Polini on it. 110% it's not. Just going to rub a little bit of oil around the seals and then just slide that in. I don't know if it needs hammering in or something. There we go. That is in. And then this Allen bolt and washer came with the plug, like so. Job done. Now this is the most important part of the build, I think, and that is the Polini Pulsar, which is 1190077, but it's the R, which is the racing kit. They do a standard one. Of course I had to go for the racing one because I want as much power out of this little beast as I can. Only a 70cc, got all the gaskets here, reed pedals and all of that good stuff. Already had a sneaky look inside here. So we've got a cylinder, gudgeon pin, we've got, looks like some exhaust studs, roller needle bearing, looks like the cylinder, the piston's been pre-installed, I presume with the rings. Yes, you can see they've been installed, so that saves you a job, saves me a job at least. Cylinder head, is it like cast alley, it's quite nice, go on. Even a spark plug, which I did not expect. Champion L78G, Copper Plus, that is the kit. A lot of stuff there. We can chuck this on the engine and yeah, it's another job done. Okay, so because it comes with a metal base gasket, I'm going to put a small smear crankcase sealant just around the bottom surface because I do not want any air leaks. That should be sufficient. A little bit of oil for the pin itself. Roller needle, oil on that, stick that through. The arrow facing towards the exhaust port, same every time. Push that in. Just going to cover this because if you drop the circlip down there, you're not having a good day. There you go, that's in. Beautiful. Now we've got to do the cylinder head. We've got a gasket here. Right, so weirdly enough, on this head, the holes weren't really that big enough to get the bolt through, so I just kind of knocked them through with a hammer. It literally is out by a tiny, tiny bit. So let's try again. Giving me problems, this kit. The hell, it needs like a bit of a tap to get it in. So this Polini racing kit is supposedly meant to produce around 11 to 13 horsepower. That is of course dependent on the setup, which is quite a lot considering it's only a 70cc two-stroke engine. Because I didn't have a socket, a little trick I used was the old seal, sit around and just hit that around the edges with a hammer. And look, it is in there like swimwear, perfect. Same again this side. So that's both crank seals on. Cleaned up the gearbox with white spirit. Gonna put all this back together and then we can move on to the next step. We've also got a new bearing on here. The only one I haven't pulled is this one, but it's a low stress one, so I'm not too fussed. You need a blind bearing puller tool for that. The hardest part about putting all these bits back together is actually the gasket. It's got two little weird notches that you need to line up before securing it together. With the final drive all back together and a little reminder not to forget oil, I can then fit this stage 6 intake kit. This is a nice high quality kit which includes the intake manifold, reed valves and adapters ready for the carb. This will maximise air and fuel flow to the cylinder from the bigger carb that we will be fitting later. This is extremely important on a tuned two-stroke engine, as more fuel and air means more power, and more power means more fun. Once this is done, I then move on to the stator, flywheel and fan. Followed by fitting the engine shrouds and some new exhaust studs. Okay, so as we are moving over to premix, I think it's best we remove the oil tank to make some additional weight saving because this bike weighs 40 kilo already. Let's get this up. That's literally held in by one bolt, and then you've got the connection underneath for the oil level. That's the tank disconnected. I'll put the bolt back in because I like to keep things in their place so you don't lose it for when you want to put it back to standard, you know. And whilst we're here, we better remove the front wheel because we're going to be putting 10-inch Dio wheels on because these will not fit the new AF18 engine. The frame is actually in very good condition. It's just dirty. Needs, I think, a little jet wash, maybe a bit of a polish, just to make it nice. After taking the frame down to my local jet wash, I used some muck-off cleaning sprays, and surprisingly, the frame is almost looking brand new again. Look at that. Tiny bit of patina and a typical Japanese worming on the paint, but actually nice. Spotless. So where I had to cut the frame, I sanded this metal down and I just put some paint on there, literally, use cardboard to stop it from rusting. Bit of paint on the edges. Okay, so I'm at the stage now where the engine can start to be mounted. I've got these two brackets from AliExpress, a shorter one and a longer one. This is for the suspension, because basically I need to bring the rear shock back by a few inches, because if it's here, it's at too much of a steep angle. These will literally bolt up inside like that. That goes to the original mount. Shock can then go back to any of these positions. If we take a look, you'll see it's just needing to be trimmed, and I want it to go the same angle of the frame as well. I don't want to cut the frame, so that is why we're going to cut the mount, because if later on I want to put the bike back to standard, I don't want it to be wrecked. After taking a few mil off either side with an angle grinder, I fit the engine mount along with the newly adjusted bracket. Look at that, fits like a dream. Got some 10mm sleeves on the engine mounting bolt because they are 12mm on the bushes. This is not easy with one pair of hands. This engine is actually pretty heavy, even though it's small. Wait, look at that. Quite tight, isn't it? Jesus. Just have a look. Hey, she's in there. That is proper mounted up. And that's the original shock. Don't get me wrong, it's a bit flimsy for this job, but we'll tighten it all up and just see how it feels. And before I forget, I make sure the final drive is filled up with fresh gear oil. So perfect amount of oil. When you look through the hole, there's a little line where it is filled to. That's the transmission oil, gear oil, all done. Now we can start upgrading the transmission. Okay, so I've got a mix and match of Polini transmission parts and Malossi. Polini high-speed variator, that's a 21mm carb, get that. Clutch bell, we've got an air filter, and we've got belt, Malossi clutch, Malossi springs, and we've got this torque spring as well. So let's get all these bits onto the engine. Brilliant. 5.9 gram rollers installed, I do the variator up hand tight. Right people, got a problem. Don't have a spline tool for this, and I believe this clutch is a different fitment to this Malossi one that I've got. This has got hex nuts, and I don't think that's going to fit. So unfortunately, for now, I believe the clutch is still pretty strong on these engines. I'm going to run the standard clutch and standard bell, see how it runs. If it's okay, then we'll leave it, send them bits back. If not, I have to cross that bridge when it comes to it. So let's get this back on the bike. So because I've done an electric start delete, I've just had to stuff a little 20mm rubber grommet in there. Fits like a glove. Oh, look at that, nice new gasket. Time to put the kickstart on. Next thing I'm going to do is put the carb on and see exactly how that sits on the engine. That is never going to go in there in a month Sundays, so I'm going to have to heat that up. It gets bloody hot, that. That's what happens when you're trying to push it in with all your almighty strength. But look, we're in there, so that ain't coming out ever again. That can stay there for life. Tighten the clamp up. I fitted longer fuel and suction pipes to the fuel tank. Ignore the rear wheel that's fitted. It won't be staying. It's only temp. So that's the fuel tank all connected, the intake manifold and carb. We'll work something out about the throttle cable next. Now I'm onto the engine wiring. I had to chop the plug and fit bullet connectors to match the Zook's wiring loop. Okay, that's the wiring connected. And then I fit the handlebars so I can connect the wiring for the ignition switch. Okay, moment of truth. So I've got the ignition on, it's all plugged in. See if we get a spark. No spark, that's weird. Swap the yellow and white around. We are not getting a spark. What is going on? Ignition's on. Damn. Anything I haven't connected here? I've literally checked everything, cannot get a spark. I've even checked the gap between pickup point and flywheel. It's 0.5 millimeters, which is perfect. Still no joy. It's so weird. Okay, so I've made a discovery as to why we are not getting a spark from the original stator and flywheel on the AF18 engine. And believe it or not, it's pretty straightforward. The original stator, which is this little thing here, only has a yellow and white, and essentially we need a red and black to power CDI. Now on a Dio, this will go to a rectifier, the rectifier will go to the battery will power the CDI. However, this Zook does not have that set up, so the wiring loop is completely different. So what I've done is purchase this piece of goodness from TWH, which is basically an inner rotor kit. Let's take a look. That's never going to go on the bike, don't trust it. But we have got in this box a new stator and a new flywheel. This TWH one, you'll see here, it has got a red and a black wire. This is to power the CDI, so I can AC charge. Now I've got this racing kit, which will probably give it a lot better spark than the original anyway. It's also got the electric start cable, which I don't need. It's got the earth cable, and it's got the pickup coil as well, and the flywheel and bracket. The only problem is, it's all in Taiwanese or Chinese, I don't know. Whatever that is, I cannot read it. Might have to get the old translate out, but it's going to go on the bike. I'm saying all this with such confidence, but it still might not work. Next thing, we'll install the stator to this mounting plate, but you've got to get these cables in between the grooves. Next thing I'm going to do is connect the green to the engine, that's your earth, and then I've got to remake all of these cables here to connect up to these bullet connectors up here. Earth cable connected. I've routed the cable through this hole here. Very, very tight because you've got this load of stuff here going on. I don't know what's there, maybe like a resistor pack or a PCB or something, but managed to push it through. Now I've got to make these ends off and we can plug it in and test it. Okay, this is going to be the moment of truth. Might have to turn the lights out for this. Yes then, we have finally got a spark. Brilliant. We're going to plug a light in and make sure that works as well. Okay, headlights plugged in, lights out again. Let's see what happens. Yes, you can see we've got a spark and we've got a headlight. That is absolutely wicked because obviously we didn't have any of that recently and I was like racking my brain thinking what is going on? Shit. Okay, so I snapped the lock on the cover. I think this is protruding too much. It looks like I will have to use that green fan, which I don't want to use. But the engine cover was actually damaged already, unfortunately, and I was thinking about buying a new one, but I didn't want to buy a new one, so now I've been forced to buy a new one, and been forced to use the green fan. Sod's law. Sometimes in life you've got to accept defeat. So we've lost a lug here, but it was already cracked up here, so we'll put it on for temporary and I can change that. It's quite a simple change, it's only literally 2 screws. We've got clearance issues. That ain't good. So the problem we've got with this flywheel is the original sits pretty much flush with the case. This you can see sticks out. I don't know how much that is, about 15 mil. So I'm gonna have to look into how I'm gonna solve this because I don't want to run it without the original case. I don't want to put like some horrible aftermarket one on, so let's see. But when looking at the original fan compared to the aftermarket one, you can see the original does stick out more. So we'll fit this, but we might have to put some spacers on the case. So in the meantime, what we're gonna do is fit these Honda Dio wheels. These are the original ones fitted to the drum brake version of the Honda Dio. I've got these from Japan. I'm gonna chuck these on with some new rear brakes and start putting the bike back together slowly. I've got 2 sets of these Katako brake shoes. Let's get these on. Grooved drum brakes. Look at these. Beast. And we've even got some springs as well. Beautiful. With the extra power, we need extra stopping power, and I think these will do the job fine. Rear wheel goes on nicely. Tighten that up. Look at it. Looks absolutely stunning. And it's aligned perfectly central. Okay, so with the front wheel, we're going to have a few clearance issues. So what I've got to do, take this plastic shroud off here, put the wheel on, and then I'll show you the setup. You can see here, the groove on the fork isn't locking into the brake, so I'm going to have to trim down this part of the brake hub itself to make it fit. Don't try this at home. Okay, so the brake plate is now all drilled out so it can fit into the fork groove, and also I've cut down this section here to make it flat because it protruded too much for these forks. Now this is off of a Honda Metropolitan going onto a Dio wheel. I just needed to find something that will match the silver of the wheels and also fit these forks because the Dio brake plate would not work. So we are ready to put the front wheel on. Look at that. I think we've got like 1 millimetre either side to clear on here. Might be a different story when I tighten it up. I might have to get a slightly smaller tyre, but I'm not too worried for now. The most important thing is it's on. I mean, my measurements were so fine, I've literally got a tiny bit of wiggle room either side. This is going to be mental. Don't that look cool though? I fitted the brake cable, gave it a test, and it stops absolutely fine. As with everything on this build, nothing fits. The rear brake cable is about that much too short, and the throttle cable is also too short. So we'll find a new one. So in the meantime, we'll fit this Pellini air filter. In my opinion, this is one of the nicest looking aftermarket air filters because I like the cover on it, and it's a foam filter of course underneath, but you can take this cover off if you want to expose the foam, which I don't want to do. I like it like this. It looks like a bit of a sleeper. It just blends in with the rest of the bike. But the blue accent on it matches the plastics. Look at that, stunning. So I've just made up a little throttle cable as a temporary measure until I can get the right length. Now I'll tell you what we are going to do. We're going to fit this, mate. This puts the biggest smile on my face. Look at that exhaust, it's so sick. All the way from Japan, these chameleon factory pipes, absolutely sick. Just look at those welds, unbelievable. Right, can't wait, JDM goodness. But look at that. Oh my god. That's gonna be killing. Look right through me. This is so sick. I literally can't deal with it. Honestly, that is so cool. I can't wait to get this all back together. Right, okay, I think we're ready for a first start. Just got to put some fuel and oil in and we'll be good to go. Proper stuff that. Put the choke on. Choke off. Let's see if we're getting any fuel. Okay, so I've just checked, it's definitely got fuel. I can smell it in the car, so What a workout. Oh, it's a nightmare. What more can I give? Choke. Like that. Okay, I've been going over the bike and I think it's just an issue because I haven't got the actual throttle cable on. I've got like a little made up one for a minute. It's not giving it enough throttle, so let's have another go in now and see. Come on. Oh dear. Oh brilliant. That sounds mean. Alright, let's turn the choke off. Boy. Oh, that's brilliant. Honestly, I was kicking that for ages. Ages and ages and ages. I also didn't see it on camera, I nearly had an accident. The bike flew out of my hands and yeah, I managed to cut it out. I didn't do any damage, but that is a beast. I'm not joking, that is going to fly. And it's such a small bike as well. Can't wait for the first ride.
The new engine shroud arrived and I wasted no time getting that back on the engine.
I've had to put a little spacer between each bolt because the fan on this sits out but that much more because of the flywheel, so it would rub the case, otherwise it means I've got a slight gap just down there between the case and the shroud. But it is what it is. I'm going to see how we get on with this fan. Hopefully it doesn't smash itself to pieces. I've got a nice new longer throttle cable because the original would not fit, so let's get this one on. Okay, so that's the throttle cable all done. Now I'm going to fit this Daytona Progress Racing CDI. Now you can see here it's got two plugs on it. The original Honda one is only one plug, so I bought this little converter. So all we'll do, plug this one in, just make sure the cables are all the same. No, it doesn't fit. Okay, so I've had to change the plug on this to a 5-pin one. Just swapped it out of that little extension lead and I can plug this in and give it a test. Lovely jubbly. It's all tucked in there nice and tight.
And then I can fit the longer rear brake cable. This is from a Honda Dio. With all that test fitted and working, I can finally start putting the bike back together again.
Okay, we've got a bit of a bonus round going on here. I didn't fit a side stand, because I can't fit the centre stand, so I've decided I'm going to fit one about there. Literally looking factory. Sits in there, perfect. This is the final piece to the puzzle. The basket cannot be used without this. Okay, so the front tyre is binding right on the fairing. You can see, I think it's due to the profile of the tyre, so I've got a new tyre to fit on the front and also one on the rear. So with two new tyres on and no clearance issues on the front, we are now ready for a first ride. I just want to say, it's honestly shocked me just how fast this thing is. It is pretty scary.
This is absolutely mental.
And that was the whole point of this build, to make this extremely weird creation by Honda ride crazier than it looks. Top speed? I don't want to find out. Horsepower? I reckon around 12 to 13. Miles per gallon? Don't be silly. And the value? Priceless. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you haven't already, please subscribe. If you want to, leave a comment. And if you liked the video, then like it. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you all again soon.